How am I doing? Okay. Thank you, John. And I do first want to thank the folks at SOHA. It has been a true privilege to represent this neighborhood and this community for the past 8 years. I very much appreciate the opportunity that you all gave me to serve as your council member. And I want to congratulate Mr. Tutanich and his family. It must be an extraordinary time for you guys and a joyous time, so congratulations to you. On the subject of Mr. Delgadillo and the City Attorney's Office, I think that the principal accomplishments are in the area of public safety, in the area of gang prosecution, gang injunctions, and neighborhood prosecutions and the neighborhood prosecutor program. The issue of public safety is a critical issue in this campaign. And that's why at the last debate that we had over a week and a half ago, I called on Mr. Tutanich to do something very simple and very non-controversial, which is to disclose his clients to the people of this city so they'd have the opportunity to judge him on the basis of full and fair information. He decided not to do that, and he's stonewalled us ever since. And I call on him again tonight, Mr. Tutanich, disclose your clients, and in particular, disclose to us your gun clients. Tell us the extent of your work in representing gun dealers, illegal gun dealers, folks who are poisoning our streets with weapons. It's been very frustrating not knowing your answer to this question, so we did a little research, Mr. Tutanich, and there's just one, let me just finish and I'll be brief. There's this one case that came up just in our research, which is the case of California versus Wayne William Wright. This man was a one-man armory, a one-man arsenal, arrested here in the San Fernando Valley for selling illegal guns to the LAPD undercover officers, and then you, Mr. Tutanich, not only represented this criminal, but you fought with the LAPD to try to get hundreds and hundreds of his illegal guns, semi-automatics, handguns, returned to him so he could put them back on the streets. You've got a lot to answer for in the area of guns, Mr. Tutanich. Please answer by telling us your client.
Thank you. You want to respond? Go ahead.
Okay, Jack, you have a pencil in front of you there. Write this down because I'm going to deal with it one time. And one time again. First and foremost, it's not true. You got the facts wrong. You have the facts of the case wrong. You also are misstating what the rules of ethics say to lawyers. I don't want to school you on the rules of ethics, but maybe you need to be schooled on the rules of ethics. These are the rules, Jack. The privilege of disclosure belongs to a client. I can't talk about my clients to you or anyone else in this room. However, Jack, I would love to. But let me just tell you this. If you went back and pulled the file, not just one piece of paper, but pull the file, Jack, you'll see that your facts are wrong, dead wrong. But let's talk about ethics, and you want to talk about disclosures. Where's the money, Jack? Where is it? Where is the money that the Kasdan firm gave you 4 years ago? You know that's a continuing criminal violation? You're talking about Mr. Wright as a criminal. You know that violation continues every single day? Every single day. But you fail to give that money back. The statute of limitations continues, and the criminal act continues. And so, if you're going to talk about disclosures, let's talk about developers. Over $1 million you got from developers who had projects before you. Let's talk about the billboard company and the 840 billboards that were given to you, that you gave to Clear Channel in the backroom deal that you struck. Let's talk about the way you're trying to push this new billboard ordinance down the throat of the council right now, when you know it's going to open a window large enough to hang a super graphic on it.
I just want to say to you, Mr. Tutanich, that no amount of rhetoric and obfuscation can erase the fact that you're not telling the people of this city who your clients are. And let me tell you, Wayne William Wright, there's no privilege that attaches to the fact that you represent him. All these documents are filed in open court. There's no privilege to the fact that you fought with the LAPD to try to get hundreds and hundreds of his guns from his arsenal returned to him. You fought the LAPD gun unit to try to get his guns back. Mr. Tutanich, all we're asking is something very simple. Disclose your clients. Disclose your clients. Tell us, Mr. Chance, you have made an effort to try to get the people of this city to believe that you are not involved in representing the gun business, gun dealers, illegal gun criminals. Come clean and tell us the extent of your involvement, Mr. Chutanich.
Let's have a brief response and move on to some other questions. Go ahead.
First off, again, I'm going to tell you again, Jack, what you're saying is not true. And instead of talking about the issue that was asked here today, what you've done is tried to switch it from the focus on you and your failed record for 8 years. A letter in the Times by one of your constituents. I don't even know this guy. I know they gave me $2,000. He must not like you very much to take a full-page ad out. But I can tell you this, that we're talking about things that are important. This is not about me, Jack, and it's not about you. It's about what's important to each one of these people out there. It's about running the city of Los Angeles legal department and who's best qualified to do it. A real lawyer who wants to bring real, trained legal skills to the office, or a politician who has a failed record. And that's what he's trying to do with this attack that he's having on me right now. Don't fight.
Thank you. Okay, let's talk about that for a moment. I'd like to ask this question to Jack Weiss. How many jury trials have you tried in your career?
I tried 8 jury trials as a federal prosecutor, and let me tell you, let me finish. If the issue is experience, there is not one bit of experience in Mr. Chutanich's last 20 years as a lawyer that I would be proud to have on my record. It's a moral sinkhole, Mr. Chutanich. Gun dealers, people accused of sexual assault, all sorts of careers. If that's the experience that you're talking about, I'm proud not to have any of it.
All right, question, same question. How many jury trials have you had in your career?
Over 100, over maybe 150.
And what are the nature of the jury trials?
Everything from felonies to misdemeanors. I think I had 8 jury trials in my first month in the DA's office.
How many of them did you win?
I've lost 1 case in the DA's office.
And you've had 8 trials. How many did you win?
I lost 1 case, but they're all felonies, and I just have to say to everybody that Mr. Chutanich hasn't prosecuted anybody in over 20 years. So you can have the entirety of your record for the last 20 years, Mr. Chutanich. Keep it. I don't want it, and the people of this city don't want it.
Perhaps the people in San Pedro want it. When I took down the LAXT during your watch as councilperson that was out storing petroleum coke that was raining all over the people of San Pedro. Perhaps the people of Long Beach wanted it when I took on the county of Los Angeles that wanted to put in a sewer line to Colorado Lagoon. Perhaps the 4 Patels and Kumar family who were brutally murdered, hogtied with zip ties and set on fire. When I sued the 2 gentlemen that went to death row so that they would not get a dime, not a dime, I didn't collect a cent on that case from those guys, not a dime from the money, the stipend that state gives them for working in prison. Perhaps they might want to have my record, Mr. Weiss. At the end of the day, Jack, my record is clear. I've been a lawyer. I have tremendous, not only trial skills, but I also have tremendous management skills. I've made a payroll for the last 21 years. Have you ever made a payroll, Jack? Have you ever appeared in state court, Jack? Do you know what a 23, let's give you a nice code section here, Jack. How about a 387? Or a 242, or a 243. You know what those are? Because you're going to be supervising people that know those numbers, and you don't. At the end of the day, Jack, I do.
You want to respond? Let me tell you something, Mr. Chutanich. The numbers that you know that should concern the people in this city are 457, 38, and 22. You are in bed with the drug lobbies, you are there behind the guns, and you are not good for public safety in this city, Mr. Chutanich.
Let me ask about administrative experience. What is your administrative experience? How many people have you supervised? What is your experience in that? Each of you, go ahead.
Well, I'm proud of my record on the city council, where I not only have administrative experience, I've written laws. I have written laws to make the city safer, including laws regulating the use and sale of guns and ammunition in this city. Laws which consistently Mr. Trutanich has challenged. Mr. Trutanich, you can tell us how many laws you've written in your career.
I know I haven't missed 1,500 votes in my career on anything. I know that I didn't miss 12 votes that deal specifically with women violence issues. I know I didn't miss 4 votes on the DNA rape kit issue. And I know that on my watch, nothing would go from 2,000 to 5,500 and then try to reinvent that issue as mine on my watch. On my watch, I've went from starting a business when I left the district attorney's office and running a multi-million-dollar law practice with 18 different lawyers working for me and about a staff of 60 people. And then I left that office and started a second one because I didn't want to travel and be away from my family. And that one is now 18 lawyers and has about a staff of 60 people. So at the end of the day, Jack, I have an MBA, a Master's of Business. I also have a BA degree, Jack, that gives me management training. I have proven myself not only in the courtroom, but in the office. I'm a manager, a lawyer, and at some point, Jack, I hope I never become a politician.
Well, with all of that tremendous experience, Mr. Trutanich, it should be pretty easy for you to tell us who your clients are.
It's really, really easy for you to say that because you know that the rules of ethics. Maybe you don't know the rules of ethics. I've never been fined by the Ethics Commission. You have. I mean, the state bar rules are clear, Jack. You know that. I mean, you're asking a question that I can't answer, but you want to answer because I'm between a rock and a hard spot. And this is the whole purpose of what he's doing here tonight. Don't be fooled. Let's talk about the issues. Let's talk about my plan for billboards. Let's talk about development. Let's talk about traffic. Let's talk about gangs. Instead, we're talking about something to eat up time so he doesn't have to address the issues that are important to everyone in this room.
I'd like to ask a question. Get back on subject. The failures of the current city attorney. List a couple of the failures of the current city attorney. Each of you. Jack, Vice, please.
You know, I'm not running against the current city attorney. I think there are a lot of things that can be improved in the city attorney's office. I do think that folks in the office very much want a more hands-on style of management. They want someone who has both legislative experience and experience as a prosecutor. But I mean, I think if you want to know about the city attorney's office, you probably should look no farther than Mr. Trutanich because he spent 3 months in the city attorney's office drawing a city salary. He still hasn't made it clear what he did with his time there. Perhaps he worked out some blank pages there. I don't know.
The same question. What are the failures of the current city attorney?
I think one of the, listen, first off, I like Rocky Delgadillo as a person. Let me start off with that. He's a good man, and I do like Rocky. And to the extent that I left my private practice after Terry Bauer left the city attorney's office to go help Rocky, took a big better pay to do that. One of the problems that we're having in the city attorney's office is one, morale. The city attorney's office has been disenfranchised. I'm sorry, I'm going to keep this thing closer to my mouth. I apologize to those of you that can't hear me. The lawyers in that office have been disenfranchised. They've not been given the power to succeed. They've not been dared to be great, and they need to be dared to be great. They need a training, a real training program, a real educational program to make them able to compete with the General Foods and the General Mills and the General Motors of the law. They face some of the finest and largest law firms in the world in that office. They have to stare them down on a daily basis, and we need to give them the tools to succeed. But it's one of the things that I was working on, Jack, when I was there. The other thing that they need to have happen in that office is they need a Bureau of Investigation. They need risk management. They need guys who can go out there and investigate these cases that they're charged to prosecute, that they're charged to defend, and help these lawyers do the great things that they need to do. Last year, we spent $40 million on outside counsel. outside counsel, in addition to paying the 650 lawyers that are presently employed by that office. We need to put these lawyers that we pay on a daily basis back to being great lawyers and not disenfranchise them.
I just want to ask a follow-up on Mr. Chutanich, because he said that he's barred by state law from disclosing the names of his clients. At the last debate, I just want to know, Mr. Chutanich, I just want to know, what is the provision of state law that you are citing for that proposition? Because at the last debate, you cited a couple sections, we looked them up, they didn't stand for that proposition. What's the law?
I'm looking for it right now. I have it in my notes. I'm going to grab it right now. And I will, before this is over, I'll give it to you. I just got to find it.
All right, the next question.
Let's try section California Business and Profession Code, section 6068, to maintain inviolate the confidence and at every peril to himself or herself to preserve the secrets of his or her client. And we'll cite Hoosier versus Superior Court and People versus Speedy Oil Change Systems and TN versus Superior Court. I mean, you want more? I don't need basic research, but I could probably get more for you, Jack. Let me tell you something. First-year law student would know those answers.
The next question we have is, last year, there was a case filed by the City of Los Angeles against Laura Chick, the city controller. What was that case all about, and would you have cooperated with Laura Chick, the city attorney?
Well, absolutely. I think the controller has the right and authority to audit city departments, including the city attorney's office, and I've said that very clearly, and my record's very clear on that. Mr. Chutanich, when you worked in the city attorney's office, that issue had already been joined when Ms. Chick had started her efforts to audit the outside counsel program of the city attorney's office. When you were in the leadership of the city attorney's office, there's no record of you trying to get the city attorney to comply with those requests.
What is your response to, would you have cooperated with the city controller or not, or filed suit against her?
You know, since we're talking about no records, on the day that that vote happened in the city council, on the day that that vote was taken, guess who wasn't there? Jack Weiss, he missed that vote. So his record's clear, except for the actual time he had ability to weigh in front of this whole city of Los Angeles and say, you know what, I support Laura Chick. Well, today Laura Chick stood next to me at a press conference. And today Laura Chick, when asked by someone who she was voting for, said, I'm voting for Carmen Chutanich. And my position on that is, I believe that the controller of the city of Los Angeles has the duty mandated by the charter, just like the duty that you have to return the illegal contributions, has the duty mandated by the charter to audit programs in the city of Los Angeles, regardless of whose office they are located in.
Speaking of endorsements, there are a number of candidates running in the primary. Both your question to both of you. Which of any of the candidates that ran for this office have endorsed you? City attorney. The ones that ran against you in the primary, has anyone endorsed either of you for the...
I think Mr. Berger has endorsed Mr. Chutanich, and Mr. Weiss has endorsed Mr. Weiss.
All right, next question is concerning a local issue, but we're putting it in a city attorney context. And that is, there's a street in Sherman Oaks called Camino del Cubre Street. And we understand that the City Bureau of Engineering recommended that the Buckley School make over $10 million in improvements to that street. But that recommendation was not a condition of the approval of the project. And a question for both of you. First, Jack Weiss. If the street fails, what can the city attorney do, if anything, to make the Buckley School pay for the improvements instead of we, the taxpayers, i.e. the city?
I've been asked about Buckley in this room before, and as you all know, there is a very, very long history to that case, and the outcome in terms of Camino de la Cumbre was one that was supported by folks who lived in that area. But make no mistake, I have always been very proud to say that I'm a supporter of Buckley School, and I'm a supporter of each and every one of the schools in my district. I think that's just critical to the job of the country.
So, what as a city attorney can you do, if anything, if this street fails and millions of dollars need to be spent by we, the taxpayers, to support that street?
I mean, the city is making the improvements and having the improvements made that were appropriate as part of the project, and no one's talking about anything like that happening.
Same question?
My question is, if the planning commission recommended that the applicant repair the road at the initial part of the process, which is almost standard form, how did that road get excluded from the finished product? That's the first question. The second question becomes, we live in really, really dire times. The city's looking at $500 million in a deficit. And next year, it could be as big as $1 billion of a deficit. To start giving away what is estimated to be $10 million without a vote of the city, I mean the people itself, is criminal. It's basically taxation without representation. Tonight, there's a tea party going on all over the city because people are tired of being paid for things that politicians do. My weighing in on this is just this. This is something that may happen in the future. This something is, roads fail, buildings fall, they're finite. And I, as the city attorney of LA, may have to deal with this issue and defend the city of Los Angeles and take on the payment of this road. And so from that standpoint, I feel a little bit uneasy and maybe a little bit trying to prejudge an issue. The only thing I can say is that is, how did we get here in the first place?
Next question is, we've read a lot about litigation between the city and the billboard industry. We have the perception that the city keeps losing lawsuits. Is that correct? And what can be done about this? First, go through those.
We have a billboard ordinance that's presently enjoined by a federal court. That means we cannot even enforce our own law. Why? Because our law is Swiss cheese. There have been so many holes cut into it that it's unenforceable and it's unfair, and so we have a judge telling us, you can't enforce this law. Well, first and foremost, that law only stops those boards that we are permitted. But it doesn't stop us from taking down the boards that are illegally in existence right now. And those boards should come down. In addition, the ordinance that Mr. Weiss is trying to push through right now has taken out the language of super graphics. Right now, the law says no building, no sign shall be supported by a building. It's illegal. Super graphics are totally illegal. And if we were to adopt a moratorium across the board on billboards, no exceptions, just stop. The federal court would release the injunction, and we would be free to go after those companies who want to be scofflaws. But we can't do that because politicians have taken the donations, and they expect paybacks, and they expect holes in the ordinance, and they expect to be able to file a permit and grandfather things in. When I become city attorney, I'm going to stand in front of that council, absent Jack Weiss, and demand a moratorium on billboards. And then what we're going to do is go after those people who want to play with us. Scofflaws cease to exist when it comes to billboards. We need to take a firm stance. We need to be tough. We need to let these companies know that we are going to be fair, we're going to level the playing field, but we're no longer going to be pushovers. And I am going to disclose to everyone who, if anyone, is letting billboards run rampant. I want everyone in this room to know that my administration, when it comes to billboards, will be honest, will be transparent, and will have complete and total integrity.
I just want to say two things. One, you are consistently mischaracterizing my record. When the Planning Commission's draft comes to council in the next few weeks, I'm going to lead the fight along with the coalition to ban billboard blight to strengthen it and improve it. And if it's not strengthened and not improved, I won't support it. But I'll tell you, when it comes to billboards, Mr. Buchanan, you're the campaign that has an awful lot to answer for, because it's amazing but true, as a candidate for city attorney, that you've actually gone out and paid for billboards in your campaign. You're a customer of the billboard industry. It's also amazing that you have benefited from a very questionable independent expenditure by someone you claim not to know, although he's a max-out donor to you, where he put up a whole bunch of billboards on your behalf. And you even paid, and I told Jules this the other night, one of the most scofflaw companies I can think of, hang 'em high, to put your signs all over this city. So as part of your campaign, you've contributed to the blight in this city, Mr. Trutanich. You haven't been independent of it, you've been a part of it.
Let me ask you a follow-up question. Is the city losing all the lawsuits against the billboard companies, and why?
Well, there are a lot of reasons for it, but the bottom line is that's why we need a tough new ordinance. And we need one that will stand up in court, and that's what I'm going to fight for.
Jack Twice wrote the current ordinances before council. He's the one who's been trying to push it through. It's amazing. Do as I say, not as I do. I paid for one billboard in San Pedro. First off, and that's a legal billboard, I made sure of that. And it was permitted, I made sure of that. And it was at the end of the Harbor Freeway as you turn into San Pedro. I wanted that billboard because I wanted the people in San Pedro to know that one of their own, someone that came from San Pedro, was running for city attorney. Because I wasn't spending the time in San Pedro as I was spending it out here in the valley, because you folks don't know me as well as those people down there. So I bought one billboard. I paid for it, and it cost me something like $5 grand to do that. It was expensive. So that tells me one thing: why aren't we taxing that money? I mean, it's amazing that so much revenue comes through these billboards that we should be doing it. Why are we losing these cases, these billboard cases? Because the guys who are drafting them are doing it at the bequest of the billboard companies to create exceptions, to create lawsuits, because it's easy pickings, and we can get them enjoined, and they can put up more billboards and more super graphics, and they can make more money.
All right, thank you.
Drafter.
We're going to have a 1 minute summation from each of the candidates, but first of all, let's thank them both for coming out tonight. Very quickly, because I know everyone needs to go.
Look, very quickly, last week you came up with some sections, this week you come up with some sections, but it's not the case, Mr. Trutanich. You owe the people of this city a duty of honesty. And tell us, Mr. Trutanich, tell us, Wayne William Wright, a one-man arsenal, B&B Guns, one of the most offensive gun stores in the history of this state in terms of flooding our city with guns that were used in crimes. Where are the rest of your gun clients, Mr. Trutanich? Tell us now, don't tell us July 1st. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Does it really make a difference? At the end of the day, you want a lawyer in office, and that's who you want. You don't want someone who's trying to make up a political record, has nothing to say for himself in terms of what he did. He has to run from his record and attack me. Because lawyers have a saying: when you don't have the law, you argue the facts. When you don't have the facts, you argue the law. But when you don't have either the facts or the law, you attack the other side. And that's where we're at with this what's going on here. Do you think that Steve Cooley, Lee Baca, the Police Protective League, 10,000 officers strong that protect us every single day, the ALADS, the Association of Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, POPA, Professional Peace Officers Association, the Airport Police Association, the Port Police Association, the California Narcotics Officers Association, and PORAC, 70,000 members strong, and the National Latino Peace Officers Association would be endorsing me if they thought that I was going to walk around town with bandoleros? Come on, Jack, get real. This is a diversion, and it's to hide your record from these folks. At the end of the day, I'm endorsed by every single law enforcement agency. Oh, I forgot one. Police Chiefs Association of Los Angeles County. There are 47 Police Chiefs Association. 47 police chiefs. 46 of the police chiefs endorse me. One doesn't. Endorses Jack. And I'm sorry. And the Los Angeles Times and the Daily News also endorse me.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And thank both of you for coming. Thank you so much.
Two individuals will be your next councilman starting July 1. The election is on May 19th. Very important election. With the new changes in city law, the person could be your council member for the next 12 years. The City Council District 5 is essentially Ventura Boulevard South. It does meander in some areas north of Ventura Boulevard, but generally it's Ventura Boulevard in south. So our format this evening is as follows. We're going to have an opening statement of 2 minutes from each of the candidates. And we'll start with David. And then each second part is each candidate will ask each other questions. We're going to have 2 questions by each candidate to the other candidate. Then, third part is Matt Epstein will handle the questions to the candidates, and we're going to ask you to come up and ask your question. He will call your name, and he'll come up and ask you a question of the candidates.
And actually, when you do come up, when I call your name, if you could sit in this chair, right here, this chair to my right, to your left, and you'll be given a microphone to ask the question. You're off camera because we've had some issues in the past, because this does go onto YouTube, so without releases and stuff like that. So you'll be off camera, but you will have the microphone.
Okay, and then the closing statement 1 minute, and then most important part of the meeting, your chance to come up and talk with the candidates. Both of them have said they can stay no later than what, midnight? 1 a.m. Okay, Paul, 1 a.m. Okay, both of them will be here as long as needed. So let's start out with a 2-minute opening by David Beheading.
And before the clock starts, if any of you do have questions, the green questions, and if you don't have the green paper, just they're over here by the water machine over here. If you have them after it started, just go ahead and hand it to Wade. He'll be walking around. Just raise your hand up with the green form, and he'll pick it up and bring it up to me.
Matt, and who's the timekeeper? Oh, right there. Thank you. Sure. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I'm David Beheading. Thank you for having me here. 2 exciting days, tax day and the CD5 forum. I'm hoping that we can give you some excitement to your Slow, who's decided to stay and see if the second half of the ballot is as good as the first. Why I'm running for the City Council and CD5 and why I need your help. As many of you know, I've served for the last 10 years on my homeowners board just on the other side of the hill. And as many of you know, 8 years ago, I co-founded my neighborhood council just on the other side of the hill. And I started to notice some things, even as a lifelong resident, until you become an activist, until you become a community leader, you don't get what's going on down in City Hall. And what did I start to notice? The same things that you noticed, that there's absolutely no transparency down in City Hall. What do I mean by that? We had a billboard settlement a couple years ago, and the City Council says, well, we really didn't know what we voted on, even though they transferred billions of dollars of our beautiful city to special interests. We had Prop B on the ballot March 3rd, and I'm so proud of you that you stood up with me and voted it down. This district, 62% of you voted against it. But it's the same thing. You heard 6 other candidates, actually 5 other candidates, say that, you know what, the process was bad, but we need soul. Well, you know what? Process is incredibly important. And it goes to the transparency issue. For $3 billion, I could put 30,000 homes, have solar on top, never pay an electric bill, and save a lot more than 400 kilowatts. We saw it with term limit expansion 3 years ago in 205. City Council, instead of being straight with the people and said, hey, we got a good group, we need another 4 years, they said, we're finally putting term limits for life. And some ethics that they could have passed. The transparency has to be put back in place. And at the end of the day, we got to make sure that City Hall knows that it does not, that we do not work for City Hall, but that City Hall works for us. And I promise you,
Thank you.
on May 19th, I'll make sure that's known.
Thank you very much. And before Paul goes on, is Sean here? Our person that takes care of the soundboard. Can you turn on the one with the red cord? Okay. Now, Paul corrects.
Well, thank you all for being here. I was actually kind of stunned at the first debate. That was pretty exciting. I apologize in advance if we're not quite as contentious. But we'll try our best. Some of you may be tired of seeing me. I represented the Valley off and on for a long time. I started 25 years ago when I worked at Marvin Browdy's field office doing potholes and getting trees trimmed and getting stop signs put in. And I represented the Valley in the state legislature for 6 years in the state assembly. And I think all of you know, I did probably my most notable local work in the Valley, speeding up the 405-101 interchange improvements, being the first one to question the 101 expansion, which would have taken 1,000 homes, which led to putting a stop to that. You all know I worked closely with SOHA for those years as well, and always would attend your toy drives and your neighborhood cleanups, the things that I could get back to on the weekend, and try to speak to the SOHA meetings as often as I could fly back on Wednesday from the state legislature. And you know, I've represented a district that's part Valley and part West Side. And I was one of the folks that actually spent as much time focused on the Valley and did as much constituent work, as much legislation to help the Valley as the rest of my district. And I'll be the same kind of representative focusing on the Valley as I was in the state legislature. And I love the Valley. I spend a lot of time here. I have a lot of friends. I do my shopping. I go to the best acupuncturist in the world, Neil Miller, if you know him or are involved in the Sherman Oaks Chamber of Commerce. I've done a lot of work here in the Valley. A lot of folks will make promises when they run for office. I've actually done it. That's why I've got a tremendous amount of support here in the Valley, which I'll talk about at another time because I'm running out of time. So thank you very much for having me here and for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Okay, now David, a question for Paul Koretz.
Paul, what do you see as the things that we have in common?
That's an interesting question. I think the most interesting thing is the two candidates that finished in a lot of ways have the most in common. I think the two of us were the most in favor of slowing down the rampant overdevelopment that faces this district. And I think either way, the residents have already won because one way or the other, we're going to see a dramatic change in that regard. I think we're both concerned about transportation. We've both been involved in neighborhoods in various ways. I started a neighborhood watch a number of years ago, and I serve on my neighborhood council policy committee. You've been very involved in your neighborhood council and neighborhood associations for a number of years. So I think in those ways, probably in the ways that count the most, in a lot of ways we're very much alike.
Thank you. Paul, question for David.
Well, I probably have a less genteel question. My apologies. I mean, most of the campaign, you said that you wouldn't take contributions from outdoor advertising companies. And yet you've taken a contribution from the owner of a huge outdoor advertising company who has the contract for the monopoly, 10-year monopoly contract for all of the bus benches in the city of Los Angeles, which is about a $100 million contract, which is up in January.
The question is?
And the question is, why do you claim one thing and do another?
Okay, Paul, you got to be factually correct. And for 6 months, I let you get away with a lot. It ends tonight. First of all, bus benches are not billboards. Number two, I said I would not accept from billboard companies. As you know, you took $3,000 from Clear Channel just a couple years ago for your state senate race. Joe Shoshani, one of your big supporters, has billboards in West Hollywood. You've taken billboard money in this race from a company you claim doesn't have billboards in LA, but it may look for some in West Hollywood. So let's keep it factually correct. More importantly, he's been one of the great community leaders. We're talking about William Joe Miller from the Subway Sandwich Shop and the Lamplight that's worked really hard to keep the valley strong and safe for the community. And I think you shouldn't mischaracterize that $500 donation.
Thank you. David, question for Paul.
See, I had a couple here. I was hoping we'd keep it nice and peaceful, but...
But people want to know the difference between the two of you.
Well, I think there's huge differences, but after leaving the state assembly, you opened up a state senate committee and started raising money. Then you abruptly ran for water board. You then moved into the 5th district to run. And I'm not criticizing the fact that you lost the water board. That's not the issue. It's the fact that you went from water board to state senate, took a lot of special interest in that state senate race, and then decided to move into the 5th district
Your question
last
is?
year. And how do you explain that series of events?
Well, the series of events was I intended to run for the water board and stay on it for 2 years because I was running for one specific reason. It's one of the most corrupt bodies in the state of California. It's absolutely notorious. They are members that are supposed to be unpaid, yet they found a way to scam a number of meetings every month, and so they're paid $24,000 a year when they're constitutionally set to be paid nothing. They also had members indicted, convicted, and put in jail for illegal contract activities. I could give you a 10-minute story about it, but the fact is, I thought I could do that for 2 years and clean up an agency that had some real serious problems. I think it would have been a great idea. Now, I did lose by 1% because I was unknown in most of the district, but I think there was nothing wrong with doing it. It was a great idea and something I could have done a lot of good in for those 2 years.
Thank you. Paul, question for David. One last question.
Well, I'll just do a follow-up. There's a lot of things I could ask, but I'll do a follow-up on the bus bench. Number one, you actually took $4,000 between the bus bench owner and his wife and his relatives, etc. But you also had an illegal contribution from it, because if you have a contract that goes over a month without being paid, it becomes an illegal contribution. You've allowed this company to front you the money for the bus benches and not be paid for many months. The question is, why are you doing this illegal activity?
Okay. I like that question. Because, Paul, when you raised that a few nights ago, I went back and looked at your water board. From 2 years ago, you still have $4,000 in accrued expense to political scientists. But you actually then paid $4,000 out of this campaign. And we'll talk about that offline.
Sure, but let me finish.
So, as you know, and when I spoke to David Z and he called me about this, I said, look at any other candidate, mayor, anybody that ran, we all have accrued expenses. Tell me if I'm wrong. We have 9 months to raise money after a primary. We have 90 days to collect the rest of the matching funds. Is that correct?
This is wrong, actually.
Which part is wrong, Paul?
What I did was legal because the rules are different in the city of Los Angeles. In the city of Los Angeles, over a month, accrued expenses becomes a contribution. And not only do you have this, but 4 years ago, this same company had an accrued expense of $30,000, which you closed your account without ever being paid. That is a highly, highly, highly illegal contribution.
Okay, Paul, if it's so illegal, why did the Ethics Commission in 2005, I was the one candidate in the city's history that spent more than $100,000 in race and got a clear bill of health. So
it's astonishing. I would actually like to get an answer from them.
Well, the point is they went
shows that they go after ticky-tack violations, and when you have the most serious violation, in my view, in the history of the Ethics Commission, they didn't even catch it.
Paul, at the end of the day, we have to file on May 2nd. Yet for all you know, that's already been paid. And you don't know. And your campaign manager jumped on Thursday on me, only because the ethics webpage was down. As you know, their server's down most often. And you made a false claim that I had not paid any of it, when in fact I paid $68,000 of an $80,000 bill.
We're talking about the bus benches only, unpaid.
The bus benches are paid, and you will see it on the next statement.
Went for over a month, which is highly illegal.
Paul, that is not the rule, okay? If that was the rule, the city would not.
Okay, I think the issue is joined. Okay, with this, let me have Matt asking some of our questioners to come up front.
Okay, so we do have a series of questions, and some of you folks chose not to put your names on it, which is fine, and I'm going to go ahead and save those till the end. And when I do call your name, if you can just come stand right behind Jules. Jules, you have to stand up. The question, the people that are, he is standing up. Sorry. Okay, where Jules is sitting, that's where you're going to be sitting. So George Winard, Wayne, Bernice DeLong, and if you don't want to come up and ask a question, that's fine. I'll put it toward the end, and I'll just ask a question. And then Harry Gittleson, Carol Fettner, Beverly Gard, Don Andre, and David Rankel. Yeah. George, okay. Go ahead and get him the question. Hold on for a second. You got to speak up, and you got to. There's your question, George.
Well, I'm listening to both of you fellows picking on each other on how much money you're getting, so but neither one of you said one word of how we're going to reduce the deficit that the city has. My question to you is, what is your plan to reduce the deficit? How about taking the automobiles away from the city council and all of the employees of the city? When most of the people here go to work, they use their own car, and the city is paying gas for these things, and also the amount of money and trips that the people...
Okay, George, don't give the answers. Let them answer the question. Okay. Paul goes first this time.
Well, first, I think we should do some of the symbolic type of things that you've talked about. And I've talked about, among other things throughout this campaign, the fact that the council and top managers in this tight budget era should at least take a 10% cut. That's a tiny amount of money that will be saved, but I think it's an important amount of symbolism. I intend to drive my own car. I don't think city council members need cars. I think they have a lot of fluff in their own personal budgets that they should be cutting for that purpose. Now, we don't have enough time to answer the rest of the question, which is how would you save on the bigger things? And if we have a chance to return to that, I'd appreciate it.
Well, let me tell you actually, and answer your question, how you cut it. There's two ways. You can either have attrition, layoffs, and then you can do a hybrid of early retirements. I'm asking each and every one of you, regardless of what you do on May 19th, how do you cut the waste? Absolutely agree with you. Lord Chick, yes. Lord Chick, there's a tremendous amount of waste in the city. I don't know if anybody saw NBC News yesterday where they revealed that the DWP, as part of their contract to the employees, get free meals with 3 executive chefs, $1.25. Now, all of us do not get that type of benefit. DWP does. So here's what we're going to do, George. I'm not going to take the car. I make that promise to you. In addition, I'm going to cut the fleet down to 1 or 2, down from 15. It will save a lot of money, but that's not where we end it. That's where we start. We got to go through all the departments and save your money.
Okay, thank you. The next question, actually, I'm going to follow up. It's somebody had asked it. David had asked it, and they said, if elected to city council, what kind of city car would you drive? And I think you both answered that. But he followed up with that and says, what kind of car do you drive now?
I have a Cherokee.
I have a Chevy Malibu.
Okay. The next question is, are you up next? Bernice?
I have a Mercedes, David.
Okay, no, you guys, if you want
Daniel, if you want to join the debate, come on up.
David, no shouting out for the audience. If you folks want to ask a question, please fill out a form and we'll be happy to answer it for you. Okay, the next question is from Wayne. Wayne's not up here, so he'll go to the bottom. Bernice DeLong.
Right here, what do you want from me?
You want to ask a question? Come up front.
No, you can ask it.
That's okay, I'll ask it afterwards. Bernice DeLong. Okay. Harry Gittleson. Come on up, Harry. Here's your question, Harry.
Thank you. I had to remember the question.
Don't let these guys intimidate you.
I'm not
Relax.
intimidated at all. I just wanted to just say that I'm going to give a partial answer because I think to answer my question, I'm hoping that the answer to my question is going to be a work in progress, something that we're all working towards in this city. And really, as we come upon now the 10th anniversary, I'm sure many of us in the Valley remember the horrible events of the Granada Hills Jewish Community Center shooting in the summer of 1999. By a neo-Nazi who obtained an illegal automatic weapon. There are a number of, tremendous number of illegal handguns coming through the city of Los Angeles. I commend Captain Miller.
What is your question, sir?
Well, I just wanted to preface it. My question really is that as candidates for the Los Angeles City Council, what can you do? What kind of personal action plan have you thought about to try to make a difference to reduce the number of illegal handguns that flow into Los Angeles that impact our children in schools? How can you work with, amongst other city council members, other organizations within the city, and of course members of the police force, Captain Miller and Chief Bratton? So that's why I said your answer would be a developing one in terms of...
Okay, thank you very much. When you folks ask the questions, just keep in mind they have 45 seconds to answer. So if you're going to take 5 minutes.
And I bring in the original owners, I have been a victim of gun violence.
Okay, thank you. David, you're answering this first. Thank you.
This has been one of the biggest struggles of our country is to get the guns out of the people's hands that don't need them. And one of the struggles is we put enhancements on, but the underlying crime is much greater. Here's the bottom line. I will work to make sure that every person is safe in the city within gun control from South Central to the Valley. But here's the other part of the answer. We're not going to be able, no matter how much I promise you to put gun control in and try to kick them off the street, they're still going to be there. So I got to make sure we have adequate police officers to be there for us in the Valley.
Well, this is an issue I really spent my whole adult life working on. I really started the anti-gun violence movement in California about 35 years ago. As an elected official, when I was in West Hollywood, I wrote the landmark bans on assault weapons, one of the very early assault weapon bans, the ban on dangerous Saturday night special handguns, which the NRA fought us up to the Supreme Court level, and we won. In the state legislature, I wrote a bill, although it was in my last year, and Mike Fuhr picked it up and got it passed, to require that guns automatically imprint an identification on the back of every bullet that's fired, so that we will know who the owner of the gun was in every case where a cartridge is found. So I've spent 35 years working on these issues.
Thank you.
And I will continue.
The next question is from Carol Fender. And then after Carol, just so that you, in case you forget, Beverly Gard, Don Andre, Gregory Wright, and then Robert Salter.
By looking at the big picture and being very pragmatic, what is it that you want to accomplish in terms of changing this city for the better? What committees do you want to serve on, and what specifically would you like to accomplish?
Paul? 45 seconds. I'm very environmentally focused.
You know what? Let's give a little bit more time on this question. Let's give 2 minutes on this.
First of all, I'm a lifelong environmentalist. I'm very environmentally focused. I want to make this the most pro-environment big city in the country, which would be a huge change from what we do now. We have the worst air quality. There's so many things we could do to change that. Water quality, recycling, I can hardly wait to get started on these issues. I've done a lot of work on public safety my whole life. That's a focus for me. It's been a huge embarrassment that we have 100,000 homeless on the streets in LA County. That's going to be a huge focus for me. I have some ideas on transit. Instead of going with a subway with some new technologies that may speed up how quickly a transit system could be built, from 25 years to get to the subway through to Santa Monica to perhaps a completely built-out system in that time. Our area has also gotten hugely overdeveloped. I want to slow that down dramatically. And committees, there's no shortage of committees that I'd be interested in, but the areas of focus would probably be environment and public safety for me.
Thank you. And if you folks do leave early, remember these two city councilmen, they won't fix the potholes in front of your house. But if you do leave early, please take your garbage because Jules is in charge of the cleanup committee and he's all by himself. So just take your garbage out with you. The next question is from, oh, geez, sorry.
Great question. First of all, committees. I like to do budget, finance, and efficiency. As you guys may all know, I've been an auditor for 12 years before I became an attorney, and I love rooting out the waste. What you also may remember is I put 95.5 on the ballot back in '98 with Senator Feinstein and Berman, required 95 cents of every dollar to be spent at the schools to make sure that they had enough money at the school sites, we didn't waste your tax money. Things that I want to focus on. Infrastructure, infrastructure, infrastructure. What does that mean? We've done a tremendous amount of development in the 5th District. For example, I always like to say, take the new Westfield project in Century City. 39 stories, $800 million investment. You know how much is going to stay in the 5th District with that additional $20 million generated? Zero. It goes to a black hole downtown. We need to get our fair share of that for additional fire stations. We haven't added a fire station here in LA, here in the 5th District in 30 years, even though we have 50,000 more people. We all are paying our fair share of the garbage fee. We now hear it's going to go up to hire 1,000 officers. I'm glad we made that commitment. But you know how many we received here in the Valley? Zero. In fact, they took 20 away from us. That has to stop. We have to start focusing on sidewalks, tree trimming, getting back to the basics of what a council person's supposed to do. You're not going to find me in Milan on a sister city trip. You're not going to find me on city council wasting 3 days of our time fighting over a resolution on an issue that doesn't apply to what I'm doing, which is making sure quality of life. I'm going to get parking structures on our major boulevards. And I found a way to make sure that we can pay for it in these tough economic times. And most important, I'm going to make sure you have a voice and we cut this waste out. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question is from Beverly Hard. No? Okay, Don Andre.
Well, this is a two-part question. The first part is there any reason why the city attorney's office should not be audited by the city auditor? And the second part of the question is, if there is no reason, then why was there a lawsuit?
I think that any city department that uses your city tax dollars should automatically be audited by the city controller that you elect that's independent.
Yeah, I think we're not far off on this. I think we both agree there should be audits, but I think part of what created the situation is there was a perception that Laura Chick was doing the audit specifically because of her bad relationship with Rocky Del Vadio. That notwithstanding, I think every department should be audited, and I think Laura Chick did an incredible job during her time as controller doing just that.
Okay, the next question, Gregory Wright, come on down, and Paul, you'll answer this first.
My question has to do with whether or not you will support really novel, creative, new ideas to make Los Angeles as sustainable as possible, as quickly as possible, maybe even a model for other large cities in this country and around the world. For example, in regard to...
No. We're not giving examples. Just that we have the question. Go ahead, David.
Okay, what novel ideas? Something really new.
Great, thank you.
And that's a nice Paul Kretz sticker. But here's the truth. It's a great question, and I love the fact that it was answered. We'll get to the difference between us. You know, we have a large developer in the city named CACD. And everybody know him here? Yeah. And he bought 4.5 acres on the other side of the hill, zone light industrial. And he wants to put 576 apartments, 500,000 square feet of retail on the bottom, 11,000 car trips. You will be stuck on this side of the hill if that project goes through. Now, I'm the only one that has stood up here and said, look, we need to take the rest of our light industrial in the 5th, make sure that green energy goes in there, design it here in LA, build it here in LA, don't send our money to China, keep the jobs here, and I promise you we'll have the most greenest economy in LA that we can be proud of around the world. Now, unlike Paul, he took $10,000, Mr. Caston. And 3 years ago, you accepted over $10,000, Mr. Caston. And here's the difference. I have the ability and the backbone to stand up to these developers, make sure that they do what the law requires to build light industrial. Thank you.
Well, do I have time to answer Ty's attack and then answer the question?
It's not an attack, Paul. It's a fact that you took $10,000.
Okay. You have 90 seconds.
Well, first, yes, it's true. I took money from Alan Kasdan for a water board race. I met Kasdan in Belt Levine's first campaign for Senate. He's been a supporter, but it's never been anywhere where there was any connection at all. And he never had any idea, nor did I, that I was going to run for city council at this point. So it's kind of a stretch. Kasdan hasn't given me money to this race, and he won't. Now, as far as something creative, on the transit side, I think I have taken a creative look at something that no one else would dare raise, which is a different kind of transit system. I've looked at personalized rapid transit, which they have in a couple other cities. It's still somewhat in its infancy, but I think it deserves a look. It's basically 4-seat vehicles that are above ground on a track, and they go to a programmed destination. So if you had a system that was completely built out in Los Angeles, you would program in where you want to go, there would be no stops, and it would take you directly to your destination. A complete system could be built in less time than it would take just to finish the one line from Hollywood to Santa Monica in the subway. You could probably build most of it for the cost of that one line and build it in half the time. I think that's a great creative solution, and I will want a pilot line that goes from Sherman Oaks to Westwood to Century City as the first trial of this proposal.
Okay. Robert Salter. And David, you'll be answering this one first. Right here. Thank you. Mr. Gersten.
I think you'll find this a unique question.
The microphone.
I think you'll find this a unique question. With the census coming, followed by a reapportionment, how much effort would you make to move the CD5 boundary north to Mulholland, away from that different road?
Good question. David?
Now, first of all, I want to just quickly touch on the 2nd District. When you elect me on July 1st and I take office, I promise you, we will have a special election out there so that the 2nd District and the 5th can have a voice and the Valley can have a voice. More importantly, I'm going to work with you when the district comes, and I'm hoping that you'll want to keep me. But if the feeling is that we need to have a complete additional Valley seat, Richard actually tried to do this 10 years ago for this community to give you 6 Valley seats. And I will work, as always, with this community to make sure that it is represented to the fullest. But I'm still hoping that you're going to want to keep me up.
Well, this question's been asked before, and I'll do whatever the neighborhood wants, frankly. But I think it might be better off having a representative that lives partly in, represents partly the Valley and partly the West Side, if you provide the kind of representation that you would want in the Valley. And you have more representatives. It's a question of whether you actually do the job and represent the Valley or not, or just don't care about it. Now, I've represented a district where I was partly on the West Side and partly in the Valley, and I've never heard anyone say, Paul Koretz, he was never out in the Valley, never came to SOHA meetings, he was really a lousy representative. I think it was quite the opposite. And I'll be that kind of representative on the council, and I don't think you want to get rid of me.
Thank you. Jeff Burke, and then after Jeff Burke, Sidonia Lax, and then after Sidonia, Ira Sherman. I hope I didn't kill your name. Come on down, Jeff. And Paul, you can answer first. You got to sit in the chair. You can't stand up. Oh, you want your question?
Hi, Paul. My question is essentially has to do with what your political ambitions are. You intend to serve for 12 years, would you consider a run for another office other than in your last year in Los Angeles? We certainly know that it's basically very difficult to be an incumbent as a council member. What are your ambitions?
Well, I can tell you my plan is, I've been in office for 18 years already. I don't need to do this indefinitely. The fact is, after 12 years, I'll be 65. I think I can start at that point to do something normal. So I would like to spend 12 years, come in with an agenda, represent the neighborhood, try to see a transit system well developed, see this become a strong environmental city, do all the right things, and then be done. There's no reason for me to plan on going anywhere else. This is it for me, and frankly, if I ever run for anything else in the next 12 years after I'm elected, I want you all to oppose me, because I'm promising you, I don't want to do anything else. I'm on camera. I'm going to be here for 12 years.
Jeff, you and I have had a chance to speak. And one of the reasons I'm running for the city council is I love finding the win-win, and I love the instant gratification of being able to fix somebody's pothole, get their tree trimmed, get a park and ride going, and reduce the traffic, making better quality of life. The other part of it is something that a few people know here, is that I married the most amazing woman in the world. I had a chance to, and all of you have seen my little boy running around here over the last 6 months. I had many offers before I got in this race to run for state assembly. And that, you know, obviously I would be the front runner in it, but I can't find a way to leave 4 days a week. I don't know how, Paul, how you did it, but I simply was broken-hearted all the time. So this is it for me. I'm going to serve my 12 years, do the best job, and make sure that these people in this room are proud of me and what I've done, and that'll be it. I'll go up and just practice along with the year.
Okay, sit down, relax.
I did write that it was creative, right?
You did what?
I know that it was something you created. About a year ago, we had a problem with the budget in the city. And it was discussed back and forth. And Councilman Zine stood up, enumerating many, many things that do not exist anymore in this figure. 70% of our budget is locked. We cannot touch it. I have checked today. Until today, a whole year went by, nothing was done. Will you gentlemen rush it through? Because we need this money, and it's locked up.
One of the things that I think differentiates both of us, and I want to be very clear here, Paul, I'm not anti-labor. You know that. But one of the problems that the city is facing is that we have some very powerful unions here. And it's making it difficult for us to make some of the adjustments that we need to. And one of the reasons I think I'll be able to make some of these moves, I know Paul was just because he's supported by labor, that they'll listen to them. But the truth is, we have to go ahead and cut some of the waste and have attritions. We're going to have to do more with less. But here's also something else I want to leave each of you with here. The city of LA has 35% more revenue since 2005. Last year we raised taxes $400 million, and I submit to a lot of you, it was, thank you.
Well, first of all, Ty claims that I'm too tied into labor, but when we both interviewed with the SEIU, he was the strongest candidate for labor. He said, unlike Paul, I'm not just a supporter of labor, I am labor. So he made the strongest attempt to get them, but now that he doesn't have them, now he's making that differentiation, which I think is questionable. The fact is, I am close to labor. I grew up in a labor family. I was the chair of the labor committee in the assembly. I have a great relationship with them. If anyone's going to get them to be cooperative in this time where we need to ask them to go back and revisit and reopen a contract that we can't make them do, but they should do out of concern for the city, it's going to be me that can talk to them and make it happen.
Thank you. Ira Rubin? No? There you go.
Roman.
Sorry.
Roman with a CH in front.
I'll never forget that.
This is to both of you. If you double the
tariffs on Ventura Boulevard parking meters, how will you help business from closing up? Because it's too expensive to park.
Great question.
Right. Who's first? Am I first on this scene?
You are first.
Well, I didn't mention it this time, but I was on the West Hollywood City Council years ago for 13 years and also served as mayor in a city that we put in terrific infrastructure, which I'll talk about another time if I have a chance. But one of the things the council, I think, made a big mistake on is we were too tough on parking. And we actually had 1 year where our parking fines and forfeitures went up $1 million and our sales tax revenue went down $1 million. And my colleagues on the council thought that was a break even, but it certainly wasn't. We were losing a lot of business because we were scaring people off. It's a huge mistake. Frankly, we both think it's a huge mistake, so this is an easy issue. I don't know why the council did it, and with no notice to anyone in the city, and if there's any way to turn it around, we should do it.
And I think Paul is right. We both agree here. You know, it's interesting. I was downtown and between meetings, and I parked at a meter, $3. And I was scrounging through the Jeep Cherokee looking for the quarters, and I had 10 of them. So what did I do? I parked across the street at a private lot where the city, for $4, only got 40 cents of revenue. And they're killing the small businesses. As you heard me say, I'm going to focus on infrastructure and get some of these public parking structures built. And it's going to be important for two reasons. One, we're going to help our small businesses. Two, we're going to stop some of the traffic that goes round and around the block. And three, and most importantly, it'll allow us actually to open up a lane to get traffic flowing a little bit better and protect our inner neighborhoods. But I wrote an article, many years ago about this when we tried to tax bumping fuels. You got to avoid these knee-jerk reactions. Let me bring my auditing and financial experience to the same time.
Thank you. Okay, there's no other questions from the audience, so there's a couple questions that people that didn't come up, they didn't put their names. Are either of you endorsed by the candidates who ran in the primary first?
I don't. No, I think Paul has the endorsement of Robin, and I actually like to bring that up. It's the first time I've had a chance to talk about it. Robin.
Actually, the question is, are any of the candidates?
No, Ron Galpern and Robin said I'm too resident-oriented.
Okay. Are you endorsed?
There are 4 candidates right now. 3 of them have endorsed me. Robert Schwartz, who was the one candidate who actually lives in the Valley, Robin Ritter-Simon, and Ron Galpern.
Okay, thank you. You answered this question first. The full question was how much money have you taken from developers, billboard companies, and PACs? But I think you guys have both gone after each other on the developers and billboards companies. So what about the PACs, political action committees? Go ahead.
I haven't analyzed it, but I'm sure I have more than Ty has because some of the labor PACs have contributed to me, and I'm sure that outnumbers whatever his contributions were in that arena.
Same question.
Yep.
So I haven't accepted anything from major developers or developers other than bus bench companies, supposedly about $200. I haven't accepted anything from PACs except Local 77, which represents the airport police who endorse me, and the pipe fitters who like the idea of my public infrastructure programs.
The pipe fitters?
Pipe fitters.
Okay. I'm sorry, I don't know whether I asked Bernice too long, if you wanted to ask a question. Okay, that's it.
Okay, before we have the 1-minute runoff between the 2 candidates, I want to announce who's here next month, because you're not going to know her probably. Her name is Jane Usher. Anyone know who Jane Usher is? Actually, more than I thought. Jane Usher was appointed, very shy woman, so please be nice to her next month. Jane Usher was appointed chairman of the Citywide Planning Commission by Mayor Villaraigosa. Okay, she's one of them, right? Okay. About 3 months ago, she quit in disgust because of what was happening in City Hall, on signs, on developments. Well, who is she, some gadfly? No. She's an attorney, University of Chicago law graduate. Many people may remember her husband, Harry Usher, who was the #2 person that ran the Olympics with Peter Ueberroth, passed away at a very young age. So she's coming here next month to explain to everyone what is really happening in City Hall and why did she give up one of the most powerful positions in the city. With that, let's have 1 minute from each of the candidates. why should we elect you to be our next city council member? I guess David went first, so Paul will close.
Well, I think it's because of my extensive experience in public service. Particularly if you look at my record in a similar position in West Hollywood, where I helped to found the city and was on the city council. I created one of the most extensive networks of services, a great graffiti program, one of the landmark graffiti programs in the county. The city is virtually without graffiti. We have just over a 3-minute response time in emergencies, very few potholes. You don't see the uprooted sidewalks that are 2 feet high that you see elsewhere in the 5th District. What I've done in West Hollywood in infrastructure, I would like to do here in Los Angeles. And also the city has a huge amount of surplus, what would be the equivalent in Los Angeles of $10 billion over a year's budgeted surplus. It's something every other city wishes they could do. Because of what I've done, I have a lot of support from folks in the Valley, including council members Dennis Zine, Richard Alarcon, Tony Cardenas, Wendy Gruhl,
thank you,
many other folks, including board members of this organization, and hopefully some of you as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. David Beheading.
First of all, Sherman Oaks, thank you for allowing me to come spend this evening with you. When I started this race, I made a pledge, and you've just seen me be grilled. I told you that I would stand tall with the 5th District, that I wouldn't take large development money, I wouldn't take land use attorney money, I wouldn't take billboard money. I've kept my promise. I'm the only candidate standing up here, and actually the only candidate from the 5th District in almost 50 years that actually started where you guys are sitting, the grassroots, residential, serving on an HOA. It's time for a change at City Hall. I have the experience, whether it's my audit experience, my neighborhood council experience. I'm the only one that is standing up here that's actually delivered to the 5th, whether it's night vision cameras for the police and plate scanners, or it's getting grants for our local elementary schools or science lab. I've done it at this local level. Put me on City Hall. I'll make you proud. I'll get you the services. I'll give you a voice, and we'll make LA great again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, number one, please clean up and also come meet your next councilman.